lenses, client by client.
Yeah, we are looking, definitely not that advanced just yet, really looking at that broad reach. I think Carolina mentioned yesterday that P2 plus is where we're looking and getting that remnant inventory. We're finding a lot of success there. Obviously, efficiency is playing into that, but we're finding great stories along the way with the remnant inventory. We've also looked with Hulu. We've worked with them and targeted adults 25 plus. With YouTube, we've looked at homeowners or light TV viewers, tested a bunch of different buys with YouTube, which I think we'll touch upon later, but really relying on that P2 plus broad demo to, see that clearance and gain those efficiencies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we found out I'm your core demo.
Yes, actually, yes.
I don't own a home, but I'm really into renovation.
You are looking
and
for
my
a
made-up
home.
home.
And after this conference, you're going to use Angi.
I'm going to use Angi.
Great.
Yep, for everything.
Love it.
Yep. So tell me, how are marketers making decisions on which partners to use and which providers are driving the best success for you guys?
I'll take it.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think we'll utilize, in terms of looking at providers, looking at day part mix across all media, video specifically, we'll utilize whether it's proprietary planning tools or a third-party planning tool to basically kick out a mix. From there, obviously, a lot of clients still have a legacy mindset, which I do think is a good mindset to have, is align yourself with premium content, well-produced content. They're used to cable and broadcast content. So as the connected TV space is evolving, obviously that's becoming commonplace in the space. So align yourself with trusted partners that have very well-produced content on hand. And then from there, we need to make sure that we work with partners that are able to utilize our data sets and also have the scale that if we were to utilize a data set on, that they can actually reach the intended audiences. And then from there, we need to hold partners accountable. So work with partners, and I think we'll get on this in a little bit from a transparency perspective. Partners that will provide any type of backend or allow for at least any type of backend attribution, allow for measurement to really help us deem that they're a successful partner and a good partner to work with.
Yeah, we find working directly with partners is the most successful for our brand, just because of course, I feel like it's kind of a black box still. After 10 years of doing this, we still don't know a lot of answers, and there's still a lot of questions we were asking 10 years ago. So working partner direct has really helped us with transparency into the buy and seeing what else we can kind of get from the partners. So we work across everyone from, NBC, Viacom, CBS, Tubi, Pluto, Vizio, who's here. So we find we're constantly testing. This year with our launch, we tested around 15 new connected TV partners, and we found half of those are really successful for us, and they become our tried and true partners. So it's a really exciting time for us to test, learn, and pivot from there.
And then that's kind of a good segue into what are the pain points of CTV?
Yes.
Yeah.
You're giving me the headache every Monday
Yeah.
for when I ask for reporting. I think really that transparency, again, as I mentioned, it's kind of a black box, especially with remnant. You don't know what you're really getting until you see that reporting. We rely really on the first party reporting from our vendors, although we have our iSpot attribution partner to check impressions and service requests. We are finding that sometimes our inventory is landing on places where that doesn't really fit with our brand. So we ran a buy with YouTube. Unfortunately, a lot of the sites it was running on was like games and anime. So we learned from that. We learned to, like, when we're enacting with Roku or Hulu, we're blacklisting certain categories now.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this morning. The biggest pain point I've seen is definitely transparency. Yeah. And sitting like across a lot of clients that specifically have historically bought linear television, a lot of clients are looking for, with linear television, they're used to show level, second by second level detail of when their ad ran, what their ad aired against, and basically where they can find brand alignment, making sure that all brand safety protocols are adhered to. So I think that transparency is something we really need to work towards. And yeah, in addition to contextual transparency, I think basically having the transparency to allow for any type of data flow to come back to the advertiser, specifically to allow for measurement to prove out success of a partner.
Yeah, but we constantly are pushing you guys over there, all you vendors, for more. We want more from you. We want more detail into the buy. So whoever can think of the best way can probably retire soon and make $1 million from it.
Great. So moving into a little bit of a different direction, what role does YouTube play for you guys within your media mixes?
Yeah, I mean, I think at this point in the evolution of YouTube, we really do need to think of them as, while they are, I mean, I think we need to look at them as a holistic OTT partner, and even more specifically as a leading CTV partner in the space. If you look at time spent, YouTube is, they're the #1 ad supported partner in terms of actual like minutes watched on the screen on connected television. So while I think a lot of marketers do historically see them as what, a mobile first, desktop first partner, it really has shifted, especially over the last year or so, to more of a big screen living room environment.
Yeah, and to Kevin's point, it definitely is kind of almost a must buy for us. It's really a reach play, but we've tested it in numerous capacities, or I think 3 times, and we're going to test it again in Q4. We're really hoping for it to work, but we looked at it for Home Advisor in 2019, looking at geo targets, guaranteeing on light TV viewers and someone in the market for a home. We definitely knew it had to be part of the Angi rebrand. We know the reach is there, so we concentrated on home ownership and just connected TV only. And unfortunately, since YouTube doesn't take our iSpot pixels, we have to go by what they're saying. YouTube let us know the awareness was up, as service requests were up, which was great, but we didn't see such great performance, so we had to cut it. So now we're going back on a 4th test with YouTube, which we're really excited about in Q4, working with our data science team to understand the best markets of matching for contractors, to understand what YouTube can do kind of to drive more action KPI versus reach KPIs. And we're hoping that this works. And, it's definitely kind of a bane right now because we want it to work, but we can't really prove it out. And it's one of the most efficient partners on our buy, but unfortunately have to cut it due to, not getting that performance there.
And so do you think that it matters, depending on the industry that you're in, using YouTube as a lower funnel tactic versus upper funnel? Like, does it make sense to use both, or, one works better for the other?
I think it's more of a one works better for the other.
Yeah.
I hope we get some good results from this test, but I'm going to just keep saying it's a reach play. It's a reach play. And that's where we're going with for Angi. We know we're going to continue to invest with them. They've been great partners. They're looking at our creatives. We're running, True View for reach, 15-second spots, 6-second bumpers. So we're excited, but I think we just have to go to the more top funnel with YouTube.
Yeah. And I think across like a multiple, or when you're looking across client by client, I think YouTube has expanded their offering to the point where I think it does make sense whether you're doing a broad reach play. I mean, they have YouTube Select, which is basically, if you look at it, a broadcast replacement at this point, with ratings being the way they are in linear, all the way down to looking at auction, their True View for reach number or offering. In addition to that, they've started beta testing their shorts property, which is a TikTok experience, like a TikTok-like experience, as well as they've started putting shoppable assets into the space as well. So I think there's multiple ways you can look at YouTube as a partner.
And speaking of transparency, ironically, I feel like YouTube reporting, they're the most transparent. When we looked at our buy holistically, we saw that a lot of the programming we were running in and videos was news programming, and news performs really well for us across DRTV. So we know they're doing it right. We just want to work with them to find the best way to prove it out, though.
Yep, absolutely. Definitely YouTube for awareness. I've seen that work really well, especially within the gaming space. And then just knowing when there's specific title releases that were coming out, those lower funnel tactics on YouTube really kind of changed the game and became an important channel. Great. So what are your guys' predictions for CTV?
Yeah, so I think what we're going to see, and I think a lot of this is consumer driven, a lot of this is revenue driven, but I think we're going to see a continued amount of consolidation in the space, and I think we're going to see that across multiple parts and aspects of the connected TV space. In terms of from a content perspective, I mean, you've obviously seen the Discovery Warner merger, Amazon acquiring MGM, Roku with Quibi. So I foresee that happening, especially as consumers want a very simplified approach to their streaming, find content easier, so on and so forth. And I think from that perspective, I think a lot of the OEMs, the television OEMs, or the operating systems, I think they're going to basically mirror and replicate that consumer behavior, and whether it be them pulling in linear streams into their platforms. You've seen it with Zumo, for example, or Pluto. Maybe a virtual MVPD will follow, but they've integrated basically linear sit back streams into their platform, so consumers can just open up their Amazon Fire or Roku device and they'll have something playing. So I think that's something I foresee happening. And then yeah, in addition to that, I think that's what I have so far.
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, a lot of consolidation.
I just think a lot of brands are going to start looking at connected TV as, again, a must buy. We're going, like, a lot of brands are kind of getting younger, targeting millennials, targeting those cord cutters. So I think it's going to really blow up. I also think we're going to be tasked again. I'm a TV gal through and through. So through the upfront, really be forced to continue to spend a majority of that within their digital properties. And that's going to definitely be a hurdle for us buyers out there. But I'm here for it. I'm excited for those negotiations to happen. And I think that we're going to continue to have to push the vendors for reporting and understand really where everything's running and how do we manage that. If I'm buying on Roku, but I'm also on Hulu, I'm also on NBC, I'm on Bravo, where is that actually running? How do I manage my frequency cap? And how do I report out on, what vehicle that's actually running on? So.
Yeah, and I knew I had one more consolidation thing. I think that
you just needed me to get your
just
flowing.
Yeah, I think that in addition to that, all from a consumer standpoint, I think from an advertiser standpoint, we're also going to see a lot of consolidation into platforms. And I think that I'm referring specifically to DSPs, basically, to allow for holistic reach and frequency management, as holistic as we can possibly do at this stage. But I think that a lot of the content vendors, they've understood, and I think we've reached an inflection point where they are allowing for a lot of their inventory to now become programmatic, whether it be in a guaranteed fashion or in an auction basis. But I really do see a much broader adoption of DSPs from video advertisers in the near future.
Good answers. And then lastly, when thinking about innovation, what are your thoughts on things like branded CTV channels?
I'll take that.
No, I know you had a lot of thoughts about it this morning, so.
Yeah.
I was like, why is everyone silent all of a sudden? We talked about this.
You wanted that question.
You had a great answer.
Yeah, no, in terms of, I think there's like two ways to kind of look at it. Like in terms of branded CTV channels, we actually started early discussions with Eric's team actually on the Cadillac side into exploring that as an opportunity, looking how we could basically drive a very native experience within the connected TV platform, and whether that's partnering with one of the TV OEMs or operating systems to allow for a mini TV site to live within a platform, or developing an app itself. I think it can definitely, I think the more comfortable a consumer feels with a brand's content and the less forced it feels, I think the better. And if it can draw them in and keep them interested for a long time, it can be very beneficial.
Yeah, and I was really surprised to hear that it's actually something that's not very expensive. So if you're ever thinking about that, you should talk to him about it. Are we doing Q&A?
Yeah, we can do. Do we have any questions for the panel from here?
Speechless. Wow.
Well, I always do. Let's talk about gaming. and where game streams, Twitch, but also gaming on YouTube, but also a number of other venues. Obviously, we've got two very advanced gaming platforms that just came online in the last year. How does that fit into the mix, if at all? And is it substantially different from the rest of the OTT and CTV mix?
Right now, it's currently not in our mix. We will be evaluating it, but I don't think right now that's where we are. As I mentioned, we saw that we were running on gaming platforms through our YouTube eye, and kind of that's the only data we really have. So until we kind of know enough about it, we can't really make that decision. But Kevin, I think you are more experienced in that.
Yeah, in terms of gaming viewership specifically, us at Dentsu, we just created a Dentsu gaming vertical. I think this was like 2 weeks now at this point, so I believe I'm legally allowed to say that. But basically, we're definitely exploring all the largest partners in the space. A lot of our advertisers are actively activating with whether it be Twitch, YouTube gaming, so on and so forth. I mean, we've Microsoft as a client, and they have Xbox, so obviously that's pretty contextually relevant for them. So there is a lot of brand alignment with that. And I think that just integrations within gaming platforms themselves is going to be a hugely booming space in the next 5 years.
So far, does it behave differently from other inventories? I mean, classically, I covered gaming as advertising back in the early aughts, and one of the challenges was it's an environment that's fundamentally different from other media, in terms of certainly the sort of resentment of interruption that happens in that medium that doesn't happen in others. Are you seeing any of that as streams like Twitch start moving into what seems like more traditional programming?
Yeah, I know that. I mean, obviously, Twitch does have their spots and dots offering their 30, 15-second creative assets that you can run through them, but they've definitely prioritized whether it be native integrations within their platforms. And basically, I think that, you have to adhere to what the consumer behavior is, what they want, what they need. And I've seen, as a gamer myself, I've seen some product placements within the gaming experience itself. And I think that just creates such a native experience.
And I have just a little bit to add on to that. Also, I think what the stream like Twitch and things they do really well is all of the advertisements are strategically placed. So for example, when a streamer is using the restroom or something like that, that's when you see a lot of advertisement. So I think that's something that they do really well. And the other part of it is for non-gaming type brands. You would think that, we might not belong in the space, but it's actually an amazing opportunity, especially, working within beauty now. It's amazing to see that how many of these gamers and how much of the audience actually has, this beauty interest as well. So you can kind of marry the two, and it works really well.
You just invented a whole new day part. Streaming bathroom breaks. How do we buy into that? We have an online question. I kick it over to Lisa.
Yes. Hey, so this is for Carolina. You've seen more success with partner direct CTV activations, and it sounds like you leverage a mix of standalone publishers and apps, example, NBC and Tubi. Have you seen any differences between the two types of direct activations in terms of transparency and efficiency?
I'm not going to come up here and say a little different reporting what I prefer, but I think working partner direct for us on the brand side, bringing it in-house, and it's more seamless for us. It also helps with our relationships in terms of pricing. In terms of transparency in reporting, I mean, we are constantly pushing the vendors, and I think it's easier. We're not buying right now through like a DSP or anything, which I would imagine we have a little bit more transparency through their ad servers.
Great.
Does that answer your question? So.
I believe it does. Kelly will have to let me know.
Kelly?
She'll let me know if it doesn't.
We are going to continue this in the roundtable at the end of the morning. That's going to be the topic of the day. Is this exact topic? I hope you guys will join us to talk about it there. All of you, thank you so much. Great panel.
Thank you.
Thanks.